UFC 313 predictions. Let's get into it. So, first of all, Curtis Blades versus Rizvan Kuniev. Pretty straightforward on this one, I feel. Kuniev is a very, very clear out of shape roid cheat in the PFL. He beat Henan for hair. However, he popped for steroids in that fight, a lot of them as well. And yeah, for some reason, he's in the UFC and he's getting Curtis Blades in his debut. And to put that into comparison, right? That's like getting Dustin Poirier in your debut. Like, you are essentially fighting the man who has beat everyone except the champion. Pretty much, right? So therefore, I really can't trust someone to come in on their debut who has popped for steroids and is now likely being drug tested by the UFC. He's not coming in on short notice, so he's had the time to be drug tested and get off the sauce. So he's going to be in a lot worse shape, and he's going to look a lot worse. And I just don't trust that. Curtis Blades is very, very, very good. He is very, very skilled, and he has a really good skill set. And I just feel like he's just going to be better than Kuniev in pretty much every area. And I just see Curtis Blades getting just a clean decision win, 30-27, maybe 29-28 in there, just something different. Kuniev has a decent round one. But yeah, I don't get why they're putting him in against Blades in their debut. Maybe because he beat the dude that Ngannou beat, but that doesn't even make all that much sense. But just, again, tailored story of Dagestani prospect getting a high-ranked fight in their debut or second fight, and I don't think it's going to work out. Okay, and next up is Mauricio Huffy versus Bobby Green. Very, very excited for this matchup, and I am picking Mauricio Huffy by KO in the second round. Bobby Green, ever since his loss to Drew Dober, where he got knocked out, he looked good in that fight, but he got flatlined. And ever since then, a lot of people say that it's the Jalen Turner fight, whereas Shin went, no, it's the Drew Dober fight. Because after the Drew Dober fight, he fought Tony Ferguson. Tony Ferguson was able to drop him twice. And ever since then, again, got flatlined by Dober, dropped twice by Ferguson, murdered by Jalen Turner, got dropped against Jim Miller. Jim Miller did rock him in multiple occasions, albeit Green did look good in the fight, but it's also Jim Miller. And then he looks terrible on the feet against Paddy Pimblett. Paddy Pimblett's landing counters while Green was just winging haymakers forward. And they get subbed and has his arm broken. Green hasn't really showed too much in his last few fights, and it seems like he's very much on a decline. And against Mauricio Huffy, who is a guy that just shown to have some really good power and some really slick technique, I do think Huffy will find the shot. If he doesn't KO Green, he is probably going to have a very difficult third round because Huffy does seem to slow down a little bit, but even then, he still does carry power into the third. And I feel like if you're trying to wing haymakers at Bobby Green or big aggressive shots like a Rafael Fiziev, it's very easy for him to slip and roll. And like if you're basic, right, like a Jim Miller, Fiziev, like not dynamic, right? But I feel like someone like Mauricio Huffy, who's very good at judging distance, baiting encounters, just has a lot of dynamic techniques. I really feel like that can catch Green off guard. So I do think Mauricio Huffy is going to get the KO in the second round. Next up is Ignacio Bahamondes versus Jalen Turner. I've got Bahamondes by third round TKO. Jalen Turner is very, very skilled. He has very good jiu-jitsu, he has very smart kickboxing, and he's very, very long and powerful for the weight class. But he drains himself to make lightweight, and he just doesn't seem to have the grit, right? Every fight we've seen lately where someone can tough it out and push back, he crumbles really, really badly. Against Dan Hooker, he pretty much had that fight in the bag with the head kick, and against Moicano, he was about seconds away from a finish. And he let it go. And when they started fighting back, he crumbled. And I just can't trust that. To beat Bahamondes, you need heavy, heavy wrestling. And while Turner has really good grappling, he's not the guy that's going to be shooting double legs. You're 6'3" at lightweight, you're not shooting double legs. So I feel like Turner, after being out of the cage for a year and not used to being in a fight, isn't going to do him any good. I think he's going to have a good first round. He's going to slow down a little bit in the second, and Bahamondes is really going to put it on in the third for a comeback victory. I think he'll win by third round TKO. Punches against the fence. Eventually, Turner just covers up and sits. The ref steps in. Next up is the co-main event, Rafael Fiziev versus Justin Gaethje. Fiziev stepping in on short notice. Their first fight was extremely close. I feel like a lot of people forget how close it was. Fiziev arguably could have won the first 2 rounds. And the only judge that did give him those first 2 rounds gave Gaethje a 10-8 in the third, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But nonetheless, very competitive fight the first time. Gaethje, since TKO or KO'd Poirier with a head kick, and then got stopped by Max Holloway and took insane amounts of damage, while Fiziev's knee magically exploded against Gamrot and has been out for over a year. Fiziev has been ready to fight since about September, October of last year, keep in mind. So his injury isn't as severe as it might seem. But one of the things I think is very important is Gaethje was preparing for a striker, a kickboxer, and Dan Hooker. Stylistically, in terms of kickboxing, quite a bit different, but a striker nonetheless. Fiziev was preparing for names like Gamrot. Right, they were gonna fight on February 1st on the Saudi card. Don't know what happened to that, but regardless, Fiziev has been prepping for a heavy grappler, and Gaethje has been prepping for a kickboxer. It serves Gaethje quite a bit better. And we've seen Gaethje fight since, and we've seen him win, and we've seen him lose, but we've seen him fight. Against Fiziev, we don't really know. And to be coming off after a long layoff against Justin Gaethje is not a good thing. Not a good thing. This is a very... a lot of people are saying, oh, everything to win, nothing to lose for Fiziev, but if he loses, he's still out of the top 10, and he's on a 3-fight losing skid. It's not a good look. But I do think Justin Gaethje will win. Third round TKO. Pretty straightforward. I don't think this would surprise a lot of people. I'm surprised that Fiziev's a favourite. Like, I know Gaethje got whooped by Holloway, but Fiziev lost to Gaethje and then is coming off a massive knee injury. So, and Fiziev slows down in the fight. He has a lot of trouble finding his range with his punches. You'll see he actually misses quite a lot. And he's not that big for lightweight. He really isn't. So I see him struggling to find the punches. He might have some success in the first round, but Gaethje will have more success in the second. And in the third, I do think he will eventually finish him, maybe with body shots. Gaethje's never really been known to go for body shots, but I feel like Fiziev will start to wilt a bit more because Gaethje put on the pressure a bit earlier. And Gaethje, third round, TKO. And now for the main event, Alex Pereira versus Magomed Ankalaev. I'm going to go with Alex Pereira by third round TKO. Magomed, again, doesn't grapple a whole lot. He'll grapple when he needs to, but he's not like a Khamzat, a Khabib, a Makhachev. It's not his main thing. His main thing is striking and patient counter-striking. And I feel like Pereira, that gives him enough of a chance, right? There is still a scenario where Ankalaev shoots, gets Pereira down, holds top control. But there's going to be larger gaps for him to be able to strike with Ankalaev. And Ankalaev, his most dominant display of grappling would have been against Jan Blachowicz, who gassed really, really, really badly in that fight. Really badly. It was insane to watch. And we saw Blachowicz chew up the legs really, really badly. Like, had he had Ankalaev limping all over the place, chewing up both legs, inside, outside, calf kicks, destroying his legs. And Pereira is hands down the most effective leg kicker in the UFC from both stances. And I don't think Pereira will gas out the same way that Blachowicz does. And also, Ankalaev, when he's pouring with his right hand will come down. That does leave an opening for the left hook. And we've seen Ankalaev, hurt in fights. We saw Thiago Santos drop him. We saw Blachowicz hurt him really badly with leg kicks. And I think it'll be enough. Pereira will have a tough time, but he won't get submitted and he won't get ground and pounded out. But there'll be times where he's kind of stuck, but eventually he'll be able to get up or the clock will burn. And then he'll just land a solid left hook that rocks Ankalaev. I think Ankalaev will hold on. He might even get a takedown. They'll get up again. Pereira will land another left hook. Hurts Ankalaev quite a bit more. And Pereira just ground and pounds to the finish. Tough fight, but Pereira will come out on top relatively unscathed. Ankalaev definitely has the tools to win. I just think there are some very, very clear weaknesses. Like, Blachowicz is a very good grappler. His takedown defense isn't good, but his takedown offense and his submission ability, his jiu-jitsu has always been, at least offensively, it's always been very, very good. And we saw Pereira be in the absolute worst scenario and still succeed. And still, wear out the clock and get up against Blachowicz. And I feel like that's just a really good sign. And Pereira has been incredibly active. Ankalaev, he had the fight against Johnny Walker, where, he had about 10 months off. Then he should have been DQ'd against Walker. And then got a KO victory, which is nice, but it's against Walker. And then had a lackluster fight against Rakic, who shouldn't have really got such a high-ranked fight. He looked good in that fight in the second and third round. He was landing really good body shots, but I think Pereira is a very, very different type of fighter to Rakic. Pereira likes to push forward a lot more. He can handle a good scrap. I don't think Rakic can. And I just think Pereira will come on top. Also, Pereira has an 80-inch reach. Ankalaev has, I believe, like a 75. So I just think Pereira is going to have a significant advantage in the striking, not just because, he's a better striker, but the more specific exchanges I think will do really well in. He's shown to do really good against southpaws, and he's shown to adapt his game really well, so I do think Pereira will come out with the victory with a third-round TKO. So anyway, guys, that was just the predictions. Leave your thoughts down in the comments below, and we'll come back after UFC 313 and see how bad I got these predictions.